Okay, I'm gonna push a dirt hole in here as long as my battery lasts. I have other videos on this stuff. You search on my channel. I'm gonna use the grass here as a back end. This is just on the edge of a freshly planted wheat field here. You see how soft the ground is now. I can push that in by hand. Just keep working as I go down. Pretty difficult for me to use an auger in here for drilling. There's tree roots and stuff in here too, so let's probably hit a root. Or a rock. It's in there deep enough though. My sifter. You see what I'm dealing with there? It's just all clay. It's all clay. Feel it pulling the root. Anywhere I dig in here, there's going to be a root or rock, one or the other. Just get used to it. So this is where I want to bed my trap. I'm using a Bridger 175. Want it down pretty low. Actually, a little bit of a trench. Like something was digging. I want it below the ground. I don't want it too much below the surrounding ground. I should not be able to be digging this swill like this. Absolutely not. Here's my trap. So that's where I want it to sit. Dig out a hole for my chain. Spot for my levers. That rock out of there. Now, I gotta get my driver. Okay, I got my driver. See how hard this ground is. That's why I use the wolf fangs or I use super stakes. That's pretty much it. Gotta go down a little bit more. Wow. Snow geese, and there's a bunch of them. There's probably 200 of them. All right, set our anchor here. Set our anchor now. Fold our trap down into the bed. And let the bed solid. You can see the print now of the trap in the dirt, so it's pretty well bedded. I know it doesn't look like it, but it's January. I'm gonna give that a quick coat of calcium. And we're gonna night latch the trap. These are dyed and waxed. Put my hollow fill. My little pan cushion. Roll that chain down into the hole. Now, I want those trap jaws bedded solid. You don't want any movement on those jaws. A few seasons ago here, you see on my videos, I dealt with a fox that was digging up traps. My God, what an aggravation that was. I want to check it. So it's not going to tip or wobble anywhere I touch it. You want it solid. Now, I have a trapper's cap for these traps. You can put the trapper's cap over it. I don't want any sticks in there. You can put the trapper's cap over it and then, you know, bed it down. I have peat moss here, that's what I'm going to use. I don't have to worry about using a pan cover because I had the hollow fill underneath it there. I really like that. I'm just going to clear my pan. Fill in around my jaws. Peat moss too will help water freezing. So what I'm doing is I'm packing it down as I fill it. Canine feels something funny under his foot. He's going to step back off of it. He'll probably dig it. Make sure I know where my pen is. So it's a nice low spot for him to step in there. That's what you want. Now I can feel it. I've been pressing on those jaws and it's not moving. So I take my thing out of the way here. You can see right where my pan is at. It's right here. So what I'll do is I'll dust that over. No sticks, we don't want any of that. Then we're just gonna give it a quick blending. This area didn't have any grass or anything in it. It's pretty bald from the mud where they actually came through here. When the guys finished planting the crops, when they mow their crops, a lot of times I have some really nice ditch edges that I could put cables in, but because they're weeds, the farmers don't like the weeds when they plant their crops, because then you get weeds in the crop fields too. So a lot of times they use brush hogs and they'll mow everything. They mow the edges of the fields with a brush hog, especially here too where it's tree lined. They'll use a brush hog along the line of the trees. So they cut down a lot of the grass and the brush out along the edge of the field, so, you know, make it easier to, they want to get as much acreage, of course, as they can. They're paying lease money on the farm. They want to get as much acreage as they can. So they do cut this back. Now, the farmer's not going to be back in here till springtime. This is already planted, so it's already got wheat in it, and the only time he's going to come back in here is to spray it, and that won't be for a few months yet. And then after that will be to cut it. So just blend that a little bit with the cover dirt. And we're going to leave it at that. Might put a sod, guard my loose jaw right about there, just as a little bit of guiding. And that's that. Now we're gonna pick up all our junk so we don't leave it. That in there, that in there, that in there. Don't use my gloves when I'm using the lure. A lot of time, I actually have another set of gloves for using lure, but red fox urine on the grass behind it. This is Young's bait and lure. This is K1. It's like a gland lure. Do not put it on the over the trap. I'll put a little bit on the stick, put it in there. I'm gonna put a little bit on the leaf here. It's like a gel, it's pretty thick. Now I got some Epler triple slam bait. It's a good meat-based bait. It's an all-purpose predator bait. Get a pretty decent blob of that. Ordinarily I'd be using like skunky odors. I'm not doing that now because it's warm. I try not to use really strong smelling odors at sets when it's warm. You can put it above the set if you have brush or something around it. I'll use like Gusto or Agent Orange or something like that, that's very skunky, very strong smell. Close to the set to like draw them in from a distance. This is a heavy hitter. This is a gland lure. Fox gland, coyote gland. Oh yeah, baby. That is some quite potent odor. That's going down the hole too. And we'll leave it at that, see what happens. That's a quick dirt hole. You could also, without using the dirt hole, if you wanted to. If I have any pipe, I think I do. Guys like using pipe dream sets. So what you do is you use an offcut of PVC like this, and instead of putting the dirt hole there, you can drive the pipe into the ground and you can put the bait and lure in the pipe. You can hide it in the tuft of grass. If you leave white pipe like this out, I'm telling you right now, it will attract a coon. If a coon sees this, he's going to come over and investigate it. If that's the case, if you don't want to catch coons and you're only setting for canine, hide the thing in the grass. Use the tuft of grass behind it, your backing behind it, and hide the pipe completely down so it's not visible. You're right on top of it. I mean, this might catch coon too. It's close to the wood edge. It's possible to catch grinners. I ideally would have liked it further out into the field. I'm not going to dig up the man's crop field, so I have it on the edge where there's no crops planted. But we'll see. All right, back in the Dodge. It's getting a little cooler now. I've been driving an ATV, something I was talking to Boxy about the other day. I think I watched, he'd done a little bit of a collaboration with Jakey Crack Outdoors. And those guys are trapping on the western side of Pennsylvania compared to where I am. I'm on the very eastern side. Those guys are on the western side out by Pittsburgh. And they're having the same issue there. Everything is mud. But we're talking about driving on farm trails, usually access to farm roads. They're usually dirt roads. Usually they're for tractor access, to gain access to the fields for equipment, moving from one spot to the other. Now I have issues here like today that the paths are really wet and they're soaked, they're saturated, and they're not frozen. So when I drive on them, the truck or the ATV even sinks into the dirt and it's ridging the trails. Try not to do that. If you have permission on somebody's land to hunt or to trap, don't go ripping up their trails with equipment, to side-by-sides or ATV, or driving your truck in and out to check it. That is not going to go over well with landowner relations. Now, the landowner here is a good friend of mine, and if I ripped up a trail, I'm the guy who's going to be fixing it. I'll get the tractor, I'll regrade it, and I'll fix it. Some people don't have, access to do that. But I wouldn't recommend, if it's really soupy and you don't want to go in there and checking your traps every day, don't have the traps set. Just set them off and wait until the ground freezes up, or wait until it dries out a little bit so you can drive back in and check your sets. If the ground is hard enough, I'll drive the ATV. I won't drive my truck up here every day. I only drive the truck up to actually set the traps when I have all my equipment with me. Other than that, I'll use the ATV to check it, or I'll walk. I will walk in, I'll park either down at the farm or up on the highway, and I'll walk in and check the sets and walk out, and that way I'm not ripping up the ground. It can get pretty rutted up. It can get pretty bad. But yeah, you know, you don't want to be having conflicts with the farmers or the landowners and stuff like that, causing damage to property. It's not worth that, you know. If it gets bad enough that you can't check, or it's, you know, you're sliding all over the place going in, and you're so far in that you have to drive back to check it, I would just not use I would, you know, set those traps off or pull them and then reset them when it's drier, when you have access to it. All right, got some more sets out, and we'll see what happens. It's been super slow. I think this weather's put a freaking dampener on everything, but we'll keep trying. All right, I'll talk to you guys on the next one. All right, a little snow on the ground. Checking traps before work. Checking lots of empty traps. I checked all but 2 of my cables this morning were knocked down by deer. Nearly every, I haven't had that many in a while. Nearly every one were knocked over. So the deer were moving, but man, the coyotes and the foxes, no sign of. Very poor activity. Weather's been super mild. It was raining in my house this morning. Now when I got here, it's turned to snow. But we'll keep checking. We'll keep checking. I'm gonna leave those sets out. Sooner or later, something has got to show up. I don't know what the deal is with the canine activity, but I talked to some of the guys on the western side of PA, and I think they're having the same issues, dealing with crappy weather and no movement. Got a while in the season yet, so we'll just keep trying.